But let's talk about Randy Orton and Matt Riddle first. And this whole championship situation with Roman Reigns, because Riddle had his championship match with Roman Reigns on SmackDown this week, with the stipulation that if he lost, he could never again challenge for the WWE or the Universal title so long as Roman Reigns is the champion. And with any luck, that will not be for much longer. Because we have officially crossed into Reign of Terror territory now. I answered a question on the podcast a couple of months ago, I think it was, about this. Somebody asked me, would you make the comparison now to Roman Reigns' title run and Triple H's Reign of Terror run? That you guys know my thoughts on that from 20 years ago. And I said, I think I said it's getting close, but I wasn't quite ready to make that leap yet. Well, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready. The bodies that have been left in this man's wake, with absolutely no new stars created to step up and challenge him and take their place, plus all the injuries, they have left the main event scene in this company in shambles. But the update on Randy Orton is not good. When Riddle referenced a back injury weeks ago that Orton was suffering from, I took that as a storyline injury to explain why Orton was going to be taken off TV when they lost their titles to the Usos. And that after Riddle lost to Roman, that would pave the way for Randy Orton to return triumphantly, and then he would challenge Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. Well, that was the plan, and now that plan is off. Because as it turns out, Randy Orton is suffering from a legitimate back injury, and it's bad enough that it sounds like he's going to have to go under the knife, and he could be out for the rest of the year. Fightful Select broke the news that Orton has been dealing with a back injury for quite some time, to the point where he actually had to work to get his back to a place where he could at least have the unification match against the Usos. They just wanted to get him to a place where he could at least get that match done so they can get the belts off them. And Fightful was told things have gotten progressively worse, and WWE was fearful that Orton would be forced to undergo surgery. Well, on SmackDown on Friday, Riddle said Randy has a big operation coming up, which confirms the Fightful report. So first Cody Rhodes goes down, and now Randy Orton. The top of the card on Monday Night Raw was already thin. And with no championship, because they unified the titles and they decided to never have the champion work Mondays. And here I wanted the titles to be unified, but I never expected that they would be unified and they would take the champion off the fucking show. Which is what they've done. It created a huge hole at the top of the card on Raw. Reigns and Riddle went in there on Friday night. They had an excellent match. The people were super into Matt Riddle. They wanted to see him win. Of course, he did not. And after Roman retained, he got on the microphone. He said, there ain't nobody left. He said he told us a long time ago he was going to wreck everybody and leave, and that's what he's going to do. But before he could leave, they played Brock Lesnar's music. And out came Farmer Brock with his cowboy hat. F5 to Roman Reigns. F5 to Jimmy. F5 to Jay. F5 to all of us. Hoping and expecting for something different. Then the announcement came on Twitter that the main event of SummerSlam is going to be Roman Reigns defending his championship in a last man standing match against Brock Lesnar. Then, now, and forever. 3 things you can count on in life: death, taxes, and another fucking Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match. Which I was all excited for at WrestleMania. Because I thought, it's the biggest match they could possibly do, right? Unification match, Brock against Roman, the 2 biggest stars in the company. That's a WrestleMania main event. Even though we had already seen it a bunch of times over the years, I thought this is the biggest possible match they could do at WrestleMania. And then the match happened, and it was a giant letdown. It was the usual spamming of the same moves over and over again. It's like me throwing clotheslines every time you watch me play Sound Off Gamer and I'm doing 2K22. That's basically Brock Lesnar against Roman Reigns. So they had that kind of a match with a very underwhelming finish. That match did not get me excited to see them in the ring together again. I had my fill. Friday night was the first time that Roman has defended those titles since WrestleMania. And after one defense, they're going right back to Brock Lesnar. He is the plan B. Once they knew that Randy Orton was not going to be able to make it, Vince McMahon goes back to his tried and true. He goes back to his security blanket. His flannel security blanket with the man bun. He goes right back to it. As if we needed a press release to tell us that Vince McMahon was staying on as the head of creative. You didn't need a fucking corporate press release to tell you that. All you had to do was put the show on Friday night, watch the end of that show, and you would know exactly who was running SmackDown. This is what happens when you fail to create new stars. This is what happens when you fail to create credible challengers for a man who has plowed through absolutely everybody for almost 2 full years. I know they're hardly new, but if you need someone from the Raw side of things to challenge Roman Reigns, you've got Bobby Lashley. Instead of putting him in pose downs and getting squirted with baby oil, Lashley was over as fuck at Hell in a Cell after he beat MVP and Omos. When he grabbed that replica belt from that fan in the front row and he held it up, the people reacted huge. You know, Lashley has a better case than Brock Lesnar does for fighting Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar got beat. He got pinned at WrestleMania in the middle of the ring. Bobby Lashley never lost the WWE Championship. He was taken out of the Elimination Chamber early due to an injury. He never came back. He never actually lost the title. He has a case to make. And now Roman, he can come out there and say, I want my belt back. I'm taking that belt back to Monday Night Raw where it belongs. It's a simple story. And it's a match they have not done yet during Roman's current run. For all the people he's wrestled and all the people he's beaten, Bobby Lashley is not on that list. There's AJ Styles. Now, he's not had a very good year. He's taken a lot of L's. But it's been a while since he has challenged for the top prize. You could have headlined SummerSlam with Roman Reigns against AJ Styles and built him back up. You know, Brock is going to have a long gray beard like fucking Gandalf, and Roman Reigns is going to be all shriveled up like his father. He's going to look like Sika. And we're still going to be getting this match. They have a stadium that they're trying to fill. That's why they're doing this. They had booked Money in the Bank in a stadium, and then they realized, oh shit, we can't sell enough tickets, so we're going to move it to the smaller building. They booked SummerSlam for a stadium, and the tickets they're selling, but they're not selling great. I think they have about 23 or 24,000 tickets sold. I don't know how many they're trying to fit in there. They're not going to fill it up. They're not getting 60,000 people in that stadium, but if they have it set up maybe for 35 or 40, well, you know what? They're not that far away. They have a ways to go before they get to that number. That's why they're doing this. They booked this huge stadium in Nashville, and in their eyes, they don't have anybody else they can put in there right now against Roman Reigns that's going to move tickets. They don't have anybody. In their mind, they don't trust anybody else on the roster to be able to do that. They think Brock Lesnar is the best option to get them there. They could have had Brock Lesnar on the show in some other match, some other angle, but they said, no, we need him in the main event. What an indictment of this company that they have to rely on the same names over and over and over again to get people to buy tickets. If they don't have confidence in their other names to be able to sell 25 or 30,000 tickets, then what have they been doing for the last 5 years that they don't have that same confidence in them? So what's the end game here? I mean, does Brock just win the belts back? Does he lose again? Clean in back-to-back matches? This is where the Money in the Bank briefcase comes into play. Because now it's becoming very clear where this is going. So far, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Sheamus have all qualified for the Money in the Bank ladder match. They have 5 more spots left to fill. Seth Rollins has got to be the favorite to win Money in the Bank. As much as I would love to see Sami Zayn win the briefcase and hold it for a while and really tease things out with this Bloodline story, Rollins has to be the favorite. And what they're probably setting up for is a repeat of WrestleMania 31. The greatest Money in the Bank cash-in of all time, with the same 3 people involved. Here we are 7 years later, and we are right back to Brock Lesnar. There are people that commit felonies who get out in less time. Here we are 7 years later. It's Roman Reigns, it's Brock Lesnar, and it's Seth Rollins. They desperately need to get at least one of those belts off of Roman Reigns, but they have announced that it is for both titles. It's not, it's for the WWE Universal Championship. I'm not sure how they get around that. It could just be that Rollins wins both belts, because I do think he's winning Money in the Bank, and then he's going to cash in at SummerSlam. During the match, making it a triple threat. Only this time, it's under last man standing rules. And this time, he may end up pinning Brock, whereas at WrestleMania he pinned Roman. This time, it might be the other way around, right? It's going to be the heist of the century, part 2. The last man standing stipulation is a way to allow Roman Reigns to lose without being pinned. Roman Reigns has not had his shoulders pinned to the mat since his TLC match with Baron Corbin. That was almost 3 years ago. That's over 900 days this man has not been pinned. Hulk Hogan is very impressed. If they can find a way to get the WWE title off of him and not the Universal, he can lose without being pinned, so it doesn't take away from his Clash at the Castle match with Drew McIntyre if the plan is for Drew to go in there in Cardiff in September and beat him. But at WrestleMania, Michael Cole made it very clear on commentary the titles were unified. It was a unification match. The titles are not meant to be defended separately. We have not seen Roman Reigns defend them separately. This was his first defense on Friday. It was not a Universal title defense. It was not a WWE title defense. It was a title defense of the WWE Universal Championship. They're not being defended separately. So again, I'm not sure how they get around that, but they could always explain their way out of it like they do everything else, right? Nothing else on this show makes sense most of the time, so why should this? But if Rollins ends up with the WWE title, he can hold it until Cody Rhodes comes back, wins the Royal Rumble, and takes it from the man who last we saw them together on TV bash Cody in the head with a sledgehammer. This song never changes. Some of the lyrics, the words, they might be flipped around a little bit, but the song, it's the same song. Seems to be we're always singing.